And that will bring me to John Oliver. I don't know. Do we consider him media? I don't know what the hell he is. Annoying and not fact-based, though he purports to be. I mean, he thinks he's Walter Cronkite. So he goes out on his show and he decides that he will be the final arbiter on whether men should be allowed to play in women's sports, and decides to unleash this typical bullshit that we get from these leftists about how it's a very small number and who are they hurting? You know, who are they really hurting? And tries to get into I couldn't find real studies showing, without spending 1 minute to consider, do you know why that is, John Oliver? It's because leftists are the ones who do these studies, and no leftist magazine, which is all of them, every magazine in the science field is controlled by leftists, will get published if they run a piece saying biological men have an advantage over women. That's the world we've been in for the past 15 years. And by the way, the studies aren't necessary anyway, because we have eyes. It's just absurd.
Thank you.
So he decides it's not enough for him to just sort of state, this isn't an issue. This is made up right-wing, catnip. But then he starts to go through these. I mean, true, these are feminists in the good sense of that word. That word it's not a good word, and I'm not a feminist. But if you want to say to me, what's a real feminist? Who's somebody who really stands up for women? It's somebody like Riley Gaines, who is actually fighting for women's rights, or Payton McNabb, the girl who at 16 in North Carolina was partially paralyzed by a volleyball hit at her by a male. That's an actual true, in the old school way of a feminist, where not the man hatred, not the radical abortion policies, but I just want women to have their rights. Anyway, those are his two favorite targets in this long monologue. Here he is on Riley Gaines.
She tied for 5th in the 200 free with Riley Gaines, who catapulted to Conservative stardom off the back of that race. First, that's a story about how Leah Thomas prevented Riley Gaines from getting 5th place instead of 5th place. Second, those trophies look absolutely identical. So, just so we are clear, Leah Thomas didn't take anything from Riley Gaines. In fact, you could argue she gave a lot to her, as Gaines later decided to forego dental school in order to be an activist and speaker. She now has her own advocacy centre and has personally lobbied multiple state legislatures for bans, all to address the threat posed to women's sports by a woman who swam exactly as fast as she did to the literal 100th of a second.
You know what this is like? This is what is Denise Brown complaining about that Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered? She became world famous and she's a big advocate now for domestic abuse. Fuck off, John Oliver. What? So Riley Gaines has no legitimate complaint because she spoke out so effectively about what happened to her that she's become, in effect, a national spokesperson on the issue. So she should really be thankful that she had to take off her clothes and get nude in front of a fully intact male who is clearly, if you review his social media, an autogynephile who gets off on dressing like a woman and obviously parading around his fully intact penis in a women's locker room before he goes into the pool and steals their medals. Weirdly, I missed that portion of John Oliver's monologues, too.
Gosh, that is just reprehensible in so many ways. I'm sure Ronald Goldman's dad was really excited about all the media attention that situation brought him as well. Thanks a lot, OJ. I mean, absolutely fascinating. And he goes on to basically, you mentioned he can't find any studies. Being alive is a study. Right. Every world record in track and field is a study. You don't need a study on this. Every single person on earth knows it to be true. And it's so offensive. And I will say this about John Oliver, and I think he is really a unique person. I think a lot of people who are on the right in particular don't even know who he is. He's just some guy, some comedian. What is he on HBO? His YouTube videos get massive attention to the extent it's absurd. He will name a video lead and he'll put it out there and it's a 40-minute monologue on lead and it'll get 3 times as many views as he has followers, which is millions. I mean, he really does get wide attention on the left. And I think he is an incredible gift to conservatives. He has a unique ability to be able to convince the left that their worst instincts are the only smart, incredible position to follow. Like, everything on the left, everybody on the left should know the last thing they should do is be dying on the hill of men should be able to play in women's sports. And he comes out here and condescends to the left to an extent that they think they go to all their friends at work and say, this is what I'm sticking with. Of course, men should be able to play in women's sports. And it puts them in a position politically, and this does not make the situation right, of course, for the poor women who have to go through the situation. But like politically, he has this weird power over people on the left to convince them that they're the smart ones and everyone else is nuts. And I don't know. I don't think it does them any favors. I don't want this to continue, obviously, but there is certainly a political benefit at the very least for conservatives.
It's amazing to me how his entire monologue is told from the point of his own physical weakness. Like, men are not stronger than women. Men cannot beat, like, what are you worried about? There's no physical advantage. Right, not if you're the athlete, John Oliver, obviously, because you just look like one big human turd of softness.
Yes.
But shockingly, John Oliver, there are men out there who go through normal male puberty. You clearly weren't one of them, who emerge on the opposite side full of testosterone and muscle. You should look around. They're everywhere, not in your mirror, but elsewhere. Look around. And Riley Gaines, the fact that she tied Leah Thomas for 5th, and he's like, it's the same trophy. Talk about being intentionally obtuse. She shouldn't have had to share with a man in anything in her sport at all. He wasn't entitled to be in that race, to have a trophy at all. And she tells the story about the trophy because they tied. There was only one trophy available for 5th place at the time. And they said, we want him to hold it. Because this was back in let's celebrate the fact that there's a man posing as a woman in this race at all. So it was clearly she was reduced to second-class citizen as the actual biological woman who won there. And the woman below Riley Gaines lost out because Leah Thomas was there, and the woman below her, and so on. Then he turns on a 16-year-old. Now she's older. I think she's now 20 or something. Payton McNabb. The audience may remember her from this show. We had her on shortly after this whole thing happened. But then she went on to speak out at her state legislature. She went on to be Trump's guest, Melania's guest at the State of the Union that Trump just gave. You know, it's not technically a State of the Union, but you know what I mean. And listen to what he said about Payton McNabb.
The most famous example concerns Payton McNabb, a three-sport high school athlete who was hit in the face by a spike during a volleyball match. She suffered injuries, including a concussion, and started speaking out against the policies that allowed the trans player who spiked the ball to play. A concussion is genuinely traumatic, though for what it's worth, she did go on to play softball in the spring and did pretty well, judging by her school posting this image about her making the all-conference team and a local paper pointing out she helped her team to a 5-0 start. And I'm not saying she wasn't injured or that it didn't have some impact on her performance, but a lot of the groups heavily pushing this story seem to be overselling it.
Oh, my God. In about 10 minutes, Jason Redman is going to come on, former Navy SEAL who was blown up so badly fighting for us overseas that his face was severely damaged. And he's the guy who posted that, do not come into this room to feel sorry for me, and his hospital bed as he underwent 37 surgeries to try to get back normalcy and said, I will fully recover. It's truly like looking at somebody who's gone through hell and just being like, well, you're fine. You seem fine. What are you complaining about? You're fine. The fact that she got through her injuries and managed to play a sport after her injury is an inspiration to most of us. You fucking prick. You don't look at somebody who's been through great hardship, who refused to just lay down and declare life over, I'm a victim forever, but fought back to do something extraordinary and say, it means you weren't hurt at all. It means your injury was a nothing burger. Redman or Payton. She came on this show too early on and told us about, first of all, how the trans player didn't give a shit at all that he had hurt her at all. Was zero sorry. And described, by the way, John Oliver, it wasn't just a concussion, you absolute loser. Here's what she said.
They hit it so hard that we didn't really know. We weren't used to taking hits that hard. So I was afraid. I know a lot of the girls were. I was hit and everything went black. My teammates and coaches said I was unconscious for about 30 seconds. While my team was huddling around me, the opposing team was laughing. But when I came back to consciousness, a trainer took me to the sidelines and checked me for a concussion and told me I was fine and could go back in. But luckily, my coach didn't let me go back in.
Was there any chance of you to defend that ball?
No. A lot of people say that there was, and I should have protected myself better, but I seriously had no time. I was out for the rest of my volleyball season. I have impaired vision, so I had to get my glasses redone. I have partial paralysis on my right side, so my right side lags slightly. I have really bad headaches. I have to have accommodations at school and test in separate rooms and get extra help when that's never been a problem before. I was really depressed. I had a really long depressive episode, and I have anxiety now.
The arrogance and privilege of this fucking multimillionaire sitting at his desk trying to lecture this young woman about how she's fine. It was just a concussion. By the way, that's enough, you absolute jerk. But listen to what actually happened to her. Weirdly, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either in his monologue. I didn't hear about Riley Gaines, again, having to change and get naked in a locker room in front of a man, Will Thomas. And I didn't hear anything about Payton McNabb's actual injuries that she somehow managed to get through in order to have some semblance of a sports career while in high school, which doesn't take away 1 second from her ongoing headaches, from the bullying that she felt she suffered, from the partial paralysis that she had on her right side. I can't, Stu. It's like the height of, leftism. That's what I see when I hear him. Like this leftist, elitist, rich prick who has no sympathy or empathy in his heart for this young girl or any young girls. By the way, he also didn't mention the girl in Massachusetts who had her entire mouth of teeth knocked out by a male field hockey player posing as a girl. Oh, how about all the girl basketball players that we have seen fall down and hurt on the court? We could do this all day. How about the girls in the Midwest who had an 18-year-old guy join their shower with his dick hanging out while they were trying to shower for gym? They were 14-year-olds. John Oliver, you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up until you get actual facts, and don't you dare purport to be fair on this issue with your fake facts and your fake, there are just no studies, until you've done 2 seconds of research. Call up Payton McNabb. Why don't you actually look into the cases? It's so infuriating, Stu, because to your point, he's a leftist god. They love him. And the reason he did that, I guarantee you, is because he saw Gavin Newsom say, it's an issue of fairness. And he sees the numbers, that this is now an 80-20 issue, and he's trying to reel back in his side. And by the way, he's got some trans producer high up in his ranks who I'm sure he was trying to pander to. And all leftists want to pander to this community. They don't give a damn about women. Okay, I'm done.
That was awesome. I completely agree with you. And honestly, it's soulless, right? Imagine being, this guy who can have this type of audience, who can bring this many millions of people to the table. And what you use that for is to mock a young teenager who went through serious injuries and now has to live with those injuries, possibly for the rest of her life, to defend some, revolting and obviously untrue left-wing talking point, that you're so locked into your ideology and so locked into serving that weird God that you're serving, that you're going to take a victim like this poor girl who was bashed in the face with a volleyball. I mean, I'm a dad of a 12-year-old girl. She played volleyball. I can't even describe to you. I really hope that her father does not watch that John Oliver monologue. I hope he doesn't get wind of it, because the anger that would be brought up when you're talking about your daughter, all you think about is protecting them and hoping that they don't go through something like that one time. And to see it defended as if it's this brilliant and somehow on the side of loving, this loving nature that the left tries to portray. We're only doing the nice thing. We're doing the kind thing by allowing boys to bash volleyballs into the faces of your daughters. I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm angry about it. I can see you are as well. I can't even imagine what her family members are feeling when seeing something like that. I mean, it's a disgrace.
Oh,
it really
I'm sure
is.
her parents want to punch him in the face, or maybe they're nicer people than I am. They probably are. But then he's like, "Oh, it really kind of all just boils down to disc golf. That's what it's all about, disc golf." Meanwhile, it's like he doesn't touch on what's happening to women's rugby, which is being overtaken in various towns and places by these guys, and that is danger. He's like, "There's no danger in track." Talk about missing a large portion of the point. It is unfair. These girls work their whole lives to have the glorious feeling of victory, which is being stolen from them. And then he says, like, these runners in Connecticut, also inaugural guests of this show. We weren't on the air, I don't know, 50 episodes before I put these girls on, who were running in Connecticut in high school and were losing to guys who had run as men the previous season. Zero hormone therapy, fully intact, fully hormonal, post-pubescent men running against them as teenagers who were starting to steal the medals. He's like, well, they didn't lose every race to these guys. That's like telling somebody who has to run a bike against somebody who's doping, or fight in the ring against somebody who's on steroids when they're not. Well, you got that one round off of them. I mean, you got that one race. So what are you complaining about? It doesn't address the fundamental unfairness that the fight is rigged. The whole contest is rigged. The fact that in this circumstance or that outlier, it could be overcome by somebody extraordinary does not disprove the basic unfairness of it.
I totally agree with you. The only thing I would actually quibble with you at all on all of that, Megyn, is when you said he was missing the point, because in some ways that sort of insinuates it was unintentional. He knows the point. He's missing it intentionally. He's hiding all of these facts intentionally. And a lot of this comes from the fact that Oliver comes from this old, like, Jon Stewart tree, where you're allowed to basically ignore facts to make jokes. I'm just a comedian. I'm just saying the funny thing. And it is infuriating. You're allowed to be the authority on everything you say until you get caught, and then you just say, I was just joking. He 100% knows every single example you talked about. And if he doesn't know it, certainly someone on his staff knows all of them. They intentionally hide those things to his audience, who swallows it like suckers over and over and over again. And I would be angry. Like, if I were listening to your show, Megyn, and you're explaining an important issue, and you intentionally left out facts that disproved the point you were making, I would feel betrayed by you. I would feel anger at the host who was doing that, because I'm the idiot that goes into work the next day and makes this big case and then looks like a fool. For whatever reason, the left doesn't have that instinct. They don't care if they get lied to over and over again.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely, especially recently, hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we're seeing, do not sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless of 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're now trying to unpack in D.C. How long will it take to get out of that mess? And at what cost? Consider gold as an option. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.